Now, the Bram Weinstein Show on Washington's new home for sports, ESPN 630.
Hey, babies. Hey, babies. Hey, babies. Hi, everyone. Broadway review version of that open, baby.
You got hand motions and everything.
Yeah. Well, we're heading towards July 4th. You know, I like that date.
You do?
I like America.
You do?
I like barbecuing.
Same question. You do? Barbecuing, of course, undefeated.
I still like America so far. You know, open to having my opinion changed about it in the next few months, but overall, I still do. Still pro-America.
All right.
Did an interview with Casey Kruger today, who's going to be representing Team America in Paris.
There you go.
And we talked all about America. America, America, America.
Before you actually jump into that, because did you see the men's team got bounced from Copa last night?
Yes.
You know?
Yes. And the look on that coach's face reads, you should fire him.
You should.
Yeah. Just the look on his face just screams not confident.
It's going to pro tip everyone out here. I started doing this really the last 8 years, I'd say. Just pay attention to the women's team. You have a lot better of a time.
My son was asking me last night, why are we so bad at soccer?
Yeah.
And I go, that's my whole life.
Yeah, right.
I actually couldn't answer that question.
Oh, I can answer it for you.
We haven't put the resources into.
It's systemic. We
have incredible athletes in this country. Why can't we steer any of them to that?
It's because it's systemic. Soccer, the reason why it's the beautiful game is because all it takes is a ball and making a couple goals. Yet in America, unlike other countries, when you're really, really good at it, instead of like taking these kids and putting them in programs that are accessible, you have to then pay for the top tier league that travels, that costs. You know how this is. You have a son in sports. Stuff gets expensive the better they are.
Real fast.
The better they are.
My
too.
son is in a select baseball league suddenly.
Right.
That cost more than the other league.
Right.
And I was already warned about if his team does well, the special trip they'll take next summer.
Correct.
Which actually sounded cool, and I want to go to it, but
Sure.
it's not cheap.
And for some families, they're kind of barely making ends meet as it is, and all of a sudden you're going, I can't afford to do that. So, yeah, that's basically what it boils down to, is what it really does when it comes to why we're bad. That's just my soapbox.
That's right.
Can't tell you it's a fact, but I could tell you the way this country works. Capitalism, baby. That's why.
Yeah, I guess. I don't know. I mean, to play basketball at the highest level, you got to go through AAU, and you got to you got to be in travel leagues. It's expensive. It's not cheap.
Sure.
Baseball's very expensive if you want to be part of it.
Totally.
The travel leagues. Hockey's extremely
Hockey's the worst
expensive.
one.
Yes.
The worst one.
You're traveling. You have to be in rink. You have to rent the rinks. You have to do it at 5 a.m.
Yep. Right.
Like, it's crazy. The hockey families, I'm like, I bow down to you.
Right.
I couldn't pull that off.
Correct.
I'm glad my son or my daughter didn't really want to play that because I love that sport, but I know what it is to be a youth parent of that.
That's right.
Especially at a higher level where you're literally trying to compete, trying to get a scholarship, all that type of stuff.
And go look at football. Guess what? You don't have to pay for your pads and your helmet. That all comes with it, whatever league you're normally in. Some are better and worse than others. But once you get up to, I don't know, I'd call it fourth grade, it's all just systems at that point, and you're not really paying for all the extra equipment. And then when you get to high school, actually, too, you don't have to pay for all that stuff in football. So that's actually somehow more accessible.
All this needs is a literal investment to force it to happen.
Correct. Yes.
Right? Like, would the MLS be benefited by investing in this program that brings kids through them with some kind of promise that they play on the MLS teams at a prime age? The problem is if they actually got good, the money's too big in Europe for them not to accept that. I don't know what the answer is, but the fact that we stink at this sport is ridiculous.
Correct.
And
absolutely.
The reason why we were good at women's soccer is we actually put some resources into it, and the other countries put none.
That's right.
So we got really good at it really fast, and all the other countries saw this, realized the potential of it, saw the value in it, and have caught up resource-wise.
Yes, correct.
And that's why we're not as dominant as we were. We were dominant because we had really good players who were supported. The other countries, they had like no support system. They were just throwing together.
Yes.
They didn't care.
Right.
And it showed.
Right.
We would kill people.
Correct.
Now it's different.
But also, for that argument as well, like we're also starting to see it now with the women where they're starting to slip through the cracks. Like you talked to Hal Hirschfeld like a month ago and when she got her first call up.
Yeah.
She had never been called up before.
Never been called up before.
Then she's an alternate for the Olympics now.
Because, well, we saw this in her rookie year. She's really good.
Yes. But it's the same thing. Like
she's really
someone that was playing at Clemson, not a no-name school.
That's right.
and she's only just now busting through. Like,
I mean, and the look on that Berhalter's face. Well, like, one, I don't know how he's the coach again, because after what happened,
which is a joke in and of itself.
like, for those who don't remember, after the World Cup, it came out that he and the family of Claudio Reyna were like threatening to blackmail each other.
Correct.
And then went beyond threatening. They did it.
They did it.
Like,
yeah.
the family released information about him kicking his wife years and years and years ago, describing him as a domestic abuser, of which he got actually in front of, immediately apologized for, said, this happened years and years and years ago. It's my greatest regret. And oh, by the way, my wife and I are still married, and go ask her. There's never been another incident like this, and I am eternally apologetic for it.
Yeah.
And then it came out that he was making the life of that kid terrible on the team, which is why they got so mad in the first place.
Correct.
How the United States Federation ended up making him the coach again after that. And oh, by the way, as usual, they weren't very good.
Right.
How they made him the coach again, we don't have anybody better.
Right.
No offense, guy. Like, not saying you can't be a coach somewhere, but that doesn't scream run it back.
That's right.
And then here they are, and they lost to Panama. That's ridiculous. And then they lost last night. In fairness, Uruguay is good and have been. Like, Suarez played for them.
Correct.
Like, they're good. They've made, like, out of, like, elimination rounds of the World Cup. Like, they're good. So I don't actually care that we lose to them. Panama's ridiculous. We can't score. We have nobody. And I just look at him and I go, that doesn't scream confidence. Just
Correct.
the look on his face, it doesn't scream confidence.
Well, also, they had the game against Colombia here. Remember, at FedEx Field, we
Yeah.
were doing the Utah game that night. And it wasn't actually that they lost to Colombia. Colombia's good, but they got
Correct.
boat raced by
Right.
them at a home friendly, essentially.
So we're going to go over there and lose.
oh, we're going to get smoked.
And I guess, in the grand scheme of international soccer, the Olympics is very low tier, actually.
Right. Yeah,
Like,
right,
compared
right.
to the World Cup,
Sure.
it's nothing.
It's big to Americans because we're the most
Yeah.
dominant in the Olympics.
That's
Yes.
right.
Yeah.
I don't even think all the great stars all go. I think some of them forego it.
Yep.
You know,
Right.
like, I think because it's in France, they pushed people like Mbappe to show up and play in it, but I don't know that he would have.
Right.
Like, the Olympics are kind of treated that way. Our basketball players did that for a little while.
Yes,
For a
correct.
little while.
Right.
Then we lost, and everybody was like, we should never lose at this.
That's right.
And the basketball players were like, they're right.
They're
We
right,
should never
yeah.
lose at this. It's our responsibility to wave the flag.
Right.
And this year, we're going to kill everybody. I mean, just looking at the team we have, which is the way it should be.
Yes. Correct.
That's our sport.
yes.
That's our, like, for real, that's our sport.
Yes.
Nobody's better than us at that.
Correct. Exactly.
And we're way ahead of them. We're like Brazil in that one. You ain't catching us.
Yeah.
Good luck catching us.
Correct. Yes.
You
exactly.
can have a Wembenyama, but you don't got 6 of them.
That's right.
Good luck. Good luck with that.
Yes.
All right. Back here, we had a debut last night.
we did.
James Wood played his first major league game. James Wood's local kid. James Wood was
My hometown.
Yep. Olney?
Yeah.
Oh, I thought he was from like German.
Well, he's from Rockville, but he played baseball in Olney.
Okay.
Played for the Olney Pirates.
did.
A whole contingent of
Where did he go
people
to
were
high
there.
school? Do you anyone know?
I think by that point he had gone to Florida.
Okay.
I think by that point. Yeah.
Because he's a phenom.
Once you're that good, you go to like the IMGs of the world,
Right.
and figure it out.
Right. And then he was in the Padres system and became a big part of the trade for Juan Soto.
Yep.
Mackenzie Gore, coincidentally, was pitching last night.
Yes, yeah.
Who else? C.J. Abrams?
Yep, correct.
Was playing.
Yep.
And then there's a couple other names of people who haven't quite emerged
There's
yet.
Susana, who's a reliever, but when he was traded in 2021 or 22, he was only like 18 or 19 at the time. So that's going to take some time there. And there's one other player thrown in. I think it was it was Voigt, that first baseman that got thrown in there. Because remember, Bell got traded too. So they needed to exchange a positional player. So that one doesn't matter because that's the veteran. But yeah, there's one other player that's still in the system. There might even be one
I think
more,
there's
too.
two. There's two others. I read a couple things saying there's two others that are still in the system in either A or AA ball that haven't quite emerged yet. But, this is the kind of it part of it. He needs to be the star.
Yeah.
And Barry Sverluga, I thought, wrote a nice, of course he was going to be there last night for this, wrote a nice piece about it. And after all the just pleasantries of here he was, batting practice, he's about to come in
Robert
here.
Hassel, the other major name there. That was which is also a guy who's contributing already. So
So here's what Barry
minors.
wrote about it. Barry wrote about it. He said, Wood's major league debut was the most anticipated for the Nats since Bryce Harper, which is now somehow a dozen years ago. But it's also unlike Harper's in 2012, unlike Juan Soto's in 2018, unlike Trey Turner's or Anthony Rendon's in between. Those players, all ascendant prospects who became stars, arrived to fully formed teams, outfits built to contend. They could be comfortable fitting in. The 6'7" Wood must stand out. He took left field for the first inning with a throng standing to greet him because he was the centerpiece of what's happening with this organization before he had so much as stepped into a big league's batter's box. Asked about being the face of the franchise, he said, I try to not really look at it that way. He's, Jaden Daniels will be going through this.
Yep.
Jaden Daniels also was the number 2 overall pick and also won the Heisman Trophy. So he's going to walk into, and I think the team has tried very hard not to thrust him that way. And I will say this for the Nationals, in a very similar way, I haven't seen them go out of their way to push, wait till this guy shows up, start profiling his home runs in the minor leagues, like kind of do this push of the answer is coming. They could have done that with him because it appeared, at least from what you saw and what you heard about what was happening over the last year with him in the minor leagues, they could have gone that way,
right.
But they didn't.
Yeah.
But they didn't, and I appreciate his answer. And I've seen one interview with him, and he's very soft-spoken.
Yep.
And not unlike Jaden Daniels to some degree. It almost feels like, I don't know that I want you to put that on me yet. Let me earn it. And, I agree with Barry's assessment here. When Bryce maybe a little less. I don't think they were ready to win when he showed up.
No, they were. They
think?
absolutely were. Yeah. 2012 was the year they went for the push. Yeah. No, they absolutely 100%.
The others were all on teams that had the team that ultimately won the championship. So he's right about, like when Juan Soto did show up, but yes. Soto also was an accidental find That's
with
right.
how good he was.
Yes.
People thought he was going to be good. They didn't think he'd be Soto.
Turner was a throwaway in a trade and ascended up very quickly.
No, he wasn't a throwaway. He was the centerpiece, but he was so new. There was an MLB rule that you couldn't trade them that fast.
Oh.
So he was the player to be named later, and everyone knew he was the player.
Yeah.
And everybody was like, you can't just bring him into our system. No, he was the centerpiece around that trade. No, for sure.
I agree with this assessment, though, that all these other big-time debuts really did time up with the team was pretty good.
Yeah, right.
Or really good.
Sure.
In Soto's case, really good.
Yes.
Right? And in this case, they're not. And in this case, Bryce Harper can look across the field at some other star. So could Juan Soto. So could, Rendon. So could Turner. This team doesn't have one, in my opinion. Like, maybe Abrams is.
Sure.
But I don't think people look at him and go, that's a guy who's best at his position or whatever. So he is in what I think is not a great space of being asked to be a savior. But I will give the team credit. Not unlike what the Commanders are doing with Jaden, they're not going out of their way to push it that way. And they seem to want to let him grow into the role. And I hope he does. And he had his debut last night, and he got a hit and almost had another.
Yeah.
And it was a weird game.
I think he's going to be corrected into one, by the way, on that one, the last one.
And it was a weird game because it was 3-3 and then it was 9-7. So it was a weird one.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I mean, I'm rooting for him. I hope it works out.
Right.
And we'll see.
Don't mistake that non-push for bad marketing either.
Okay.
I'm just saying.
Okay.
I'm just telling you that.
I know that the Commanders are doing this purposefully, not to put too much pressure on Daniel.
Right,
so I'm looking at it from that lens. I know they're doing that purposefully, not to put too much pressure on him.
Yeah, I just know this is the organization that if you look out in the parking lot, there's giant banners covering half the stadium of Josiah Gray and Keibert Ruiz.
Mm-hmm.
And you and I both know how that's gone. And they want you to like those players because they were the ones that they traded Scherzer and Turner for. In this case, I don't want to say that they're slow rolling it with Wood, but they would have done a little bit of a better job. But also, don't forget either, they leaked it to Grant Paulson that he was going to come up on Friday to hype up yesterday's game. So
yeah, but that's fine. I don't see that.
Sure.
Like they haven't been a month ago going, out of their way to go like, look at this home run.
No. I mean, social media, they do a little bit, but I will say this, though. That was fine with me, but they're paying enough attention to it. I don't know maybe they just know he is so soft-spoken, they don't want to put it on him this fast, but Guess who's going to be on those parking garage banners next year? He's going to be one of them. You can't not have someone literally from the
100%.
area. 100%. You can't literally have someone from the area and not market him like that.
He also is supposed to be good.
Yes, correct. They posted.
I'm hoping great. We think the floor is good.
Yes, of course. Yeah, absolutely.
Right.
And so
that's where I am on Daniels. I'm like, I'm hoping great. I think the floor is good.
Right. And what's funny, though, is like the Orioles, they've used this to their advantage a little bit where they get excited when someone gets called up, and then they just kind of let these guys find their way. Like the Rushman one pissed me off because I had vented to you about this, how it was Preakness Day that day, and they decided to call him up that morning. And I was like, guys, there's a significant part of your fan base that ain't going to be conscious by the time that guy hits the plate that night. But I'm saying they didn't warn it. Like they didn't even.
It is a bad day.
Like
for that,
they didn't even say, "Hey, this weekend we know you got Preakness, but Adley's getting called up, so make sure you make it out." No, it was 10 o'clock that morning. I had to buy tickets for it because I wanted to go, and like that was a mistake. But look at what Adley's done now. Adley's the superstar. You could argue Gunner's the bigger superstar, though.
Yes, they have two of them.
They've
on their
let
team.
that happen, though. They never made Gunner that way, and so I think.
And they're hoping they're going to have a third with Jackson Holliday, who had a rough start to
Correct.
his major league career
Correct.
and is now back, but they're slow rolling him again.
Exactly, and so I think the Nats maybe have taken that playbook here of we really believe in this guy, but let's just let him have some moments here and let the fans gravitate towards him naturally. Because I texted someone that was at the game yesterday, and I was like, "Let me know what's in the team store, right?" Nothing.
Nothing.
There was nothing. So I was like, all right, this is weird. You had a 3-day heads up, and there's not even jerseys in the team store.
I would
like,
buy this.
Right. Like he was like, I saw a tweet yesterday from someone else I follow. I was like, I would have bought my whole family Wood jerseys, but you guys don't have them. So that's what I'm saying. Like, don't discount bad marketing in all of this as well. I think they are trying to do big picture with him, but there's also some little things that I'm literally telling you about boots on the ground that kind of are a little ridiculous with the guy. So
Mark Lerner was there at the media session and did a quote, and he said this. I don't know if it was to Barry or to the whole group, but Barry has it. And he wrote, "It's so exciting. We're seeing our vision starting to move forward, the progress the organization is making. This is really, really special." And Barry points out, the progress won't continue with, say, Joey Meneses is first and Nick Senzel at third. And he goes,
sounds like you. Yes.
He goes, there was a time to be financially conservative and collect assets. That has happened, but it's over. The time to start to spend is coming and fast.
Yep.
So he gives the Mark Lerner quote of,
what I said yesterday.
Yeah, he gives the Mark Lerner quote of, we see what we're building here. And now Barry's going, okay, time to throw a little gas on the fire.
Pull the wallet out. Yes.
Yes.
Correct.
And that is an open question whether they will.
Correct.
So I'm not saying they won't, but I haven't seen them do anything like that. And the only person making any, well, I guess Strasburg is technically too, but like Strasburg and Corbin.
Yep.
Corbin's contract will run out. You really don't have an excuse. You're not paying anybody on this team. Nobody is making real money. Ruiz has a decent contract. It's not a crazy contract. Nobody else is literally making any money. They're all on young, under control, aren't making the money deals yet. So they have no excuse, and I'm with you and I'm with Barry on that, but I'll believe it when I see it because,
Agree.
1 month they're talking about selling, the next month they're not talking about selling. 1 month they want to give Soto a lot of money, the next month they're trading him.
When Ted's talking to whoever has a mic in his face saying he wants to buy him.
They don't want, Ted's like, it would be good for everybody if they just sold it to me. Remember that quote? That was amazing. Why don't you be honest about it? He goes, this would be good for everybody. Let's hold hands and do it together. I was like, oh my God. Like, you just told them that they don't know what they're doing. You just told them that.
They could do the same thing.
Yeah, but listen, in recent years, who did they pay? They didn't pay Turner.
Yep.
They couldn't get it done with Harper.
Yeah.
They didn't pay Soto I don't know. He didn't want to talk about a contract and they wanted him to take something prematurely and they just couldn't get around to it. So they traded him. Yeah. And they haven't paid for anybody else yet.
Yes.
So I hear about, I'm all for it's time to start spending because you don't have a lot of money spent at this point, but I'll believe it when I see it with them. I'm not saying they won't because they've done it in the past, but they haven't done it lately. And the people who are really good on their team, they didn't do it with them. So let's see.
No, of course. The amount of extensions you can with players, you can count on one hand. Of recent, you had Ruiz last year, right? Of course. You had Zimmerman. Signed multiple ones, which was, face of the franchise. How do you not, right? Strasburg had multiple ones.
Yes.
That's it. That's the list.
They've
been here for almost 20 years, and they have not retained a single player outside of those three.
I mean, it goes back to Jordan Zimmerman, Ian Desmond, like all sorts of people who, again, like I don't look at them and go, they needed to have
and they were
something.
right about most of them.
They were right about Rendon. They were right about Ian Desmond. They were right about Zimmerman.
Yep.
I mean, they were right about all. In most cases, you will be. And with the Rendon Strasburg thing, that happened in the same year. There was no chance they were doing both of them.
Correct.
So, and I would have picked the pitcher over the hitter any day of the week, and they did. And unfortunately, they really should have done neither. But like, whatever.
Right. The guy just won World Series MVP. I get it.
I get it too. I get it too. And if I'm going to make a choice, I'm making that choice 10 times out of 10 every single time. Correct. So I don't have a problem with the choice. But they didn't do it with Turner. They didn't do it with Soto. They didn't do it with Harper. Maybe some of that isn't their fault, but they didn't get those deals done.
Right.
So are they going to do it with somebody else? We'll see.
Yeah, I mean,
let me know.
The one to circle is Abrams. They have 3 more years of control over him. And so that's actually the deal you would circle right now. Like, what if the Nats actually let me ask you this, because I waited on this morning. What if the Nats didn't make any major signings in the offseason, but they extended Abrams to one of those Braves deals?
Yeah.
What would your thought be on that? If they got Abrams to do one of those Braves deals in this offseason,
3 years in advance?
Yeah, and didn't get anyone else major, would that be like sufficient enough? Would you at least go least? Okay.
No, I don't think they're spending a lot of money to upgrade the team. They have him under control. I would say you need to do both.
Right.
If you can get a deal done with him early, I'm all for that.
I would say if they can get Abrams and sign a pitcher, I'd be happy with it.
Yeah, I mean, something.
Yeah.
Like there needs to be a free agent acquisition here of real money of a player who's not too old and
correct
can help them.
Mm-hmm. Right.
But will they feel like they're in position to do that? Well, Mark Lerner just said we're seeing this all come into play. So, all right, then put your money where your mouth is on that.
Right.
If it is all coming into play, then go help them get them what they need.
Right.
I'm still of the opinion that I'm of wait and see. I still don't see it. Like I'm hoping this guy helps me see it.
Sure.
I'm hoping Dylan Cruz helps me see it.
Mm-hmm.
I have not seen it from on the team as a whole. I appreciate that they play hard. I appreciate they're competitive. I don't think they're very good. I think their record screams that.
Yeah.
And it might even be a touch better than probably I thought it would be, but not by much. And as I went through yesterday when you were like, they could make the wild card, I'm like, they're also like close to last place in the NL. So it's not like they're having a good season. They're just not as bad as people maybe thought they were going to be by design.
Yeah.
So I'm with Barry. I'm with you. Like, you guys really want to show me this vision. Put your money where your mouth is.
Right. They also need to make sure they sell at the deadline this year, which is Lane Thomas, Kyle Finnegan, and there's one other name there that I'm forgetting. It might be.
I'm fine with that.
Yeah, and they should. But that's what I'm getting at here is, yes, they're close to the wild card. I hope they don't lose sight of, though. You need to kind of still gather some assets to really
100%.
put you over the top. So
100%.
Yeah.
No, I think, I mean, the future is Wood, Cruz, Abrams, Gore.
Yep.
Who else? Because Ruiz is now a question mark, unfortunately.
Yeah. The rest of their pitching staff is pretty good. Like Hers, who starts tonight, has been a decent surprise. Mason Thompson has been a nice little surprise.
Okay.
Like their starters, actually, if you go look at what they've done, are actually all very, very solid.
Right.
It depends who ascends to that next level. Like Gore has gotten better every single year. Mm-hmm. And so you look at him and you're thinking, like, next year he could be like the stud and be the ace of the staff, really, if he, keeps it up. The other ones, you need to kind of wait and see if they settle out. Because I've said this too. You fill out a roster with 4th and 5th starters sometimes too, and that's perfectly fine if you get them really, really cheap. Like Tanner Roark was here for how many years? Yeah. Always had that 5th spot on lockdown. Like, don't overestimate that they figure out who some of these guys are going to be for the long haul, even if they're not like these amazing top-end starters.
Not to put too much pressure on this guy, but the reality is he's the linchpin of all of this, the turnaround.
Yeah,
because
I'd agree.
he's the one. Yeah. Like, I hope these other guys work out, but he's the one that needs to come up and be really, really good. Like, really good.
Yes. Yeah.
And one of two things will happen if he is really good. If he is, and they don't build anything around him, they will trade him like they traded Juan Soto.
Right.
And if he is not that good, then the trade is going to look bad.
Correct. Yes.
And that's why it sucks to put this pressure on him, but that's the reality of it.
Yeah, but go look at what we've talked about.
That's the reality of it.
Go look at how we've talked about the Dodgers trade. We've said it's Mike Rizzo's probably worst trade since he's been here.
it looks really bad.
Right.
In hindsight, it looks terrible, honestly. Yes. I didn't like it at the time, but like I'm willing to hear out. I don't know anything about Josiah Gray or Keibert Ruiz. Well, as it turns out, neither one of them are turning into a player they can count on to be good.
Right, exactly.
Now with Wood, like I'm going with he looks like the floor is good and maybe he's great. But the problem is I don't know what they're going to put around him. And if in 3 years they haven't reached this vision and they don't have a team that's competitive, I am fairly certain they're going to do the same thing with him that they did with Juan Soto, which will suck.
Right.
Or if this guy, and I hope this isn't the case, isn't great, and is just, above average, because it doesn't look like he could be bad, but like above average, but he's okay, well, then that trade again didn't give you what you needed to quote unquote turn the whole thing around.
Right.
They're basically, I think we're all saying the same thing. Time to start showing the goods. You made these deals. You traded away great Major League Baseball players, a couple of which were still in their prime. And what you need to get in return for that is a full team.
Right.
And you're not showing that to me yet. I am now starting to see the pieces that you told me, just be patient. You'll see those guys. Here they are. So rubber meets the road now, boys. Like, you're going to have to show me that you are actually building something that is remotely close to what you had 6-7 years ago, or those trades are busts.
Yeah, but only one trade is busted right now.
One's busted.
Yeah.
The other big one has good players in it, but we need great players in it.
Sure, but you're not going to see that within 2 years. I've said this from the get-go. You're not going to know whether it's good or not until probably 2 more years.
Okay.
Until it's that good. I mean, you might know next year how good it is if some of these guys end up. If Gore continues to play the way that he should, and Wood all of a sudden is mashing home runs like
if he's
crazy.
Hitting 30, 40 home runs, I'll hear you.
You'll actually take that victory because C.J. Abrams is already a very good shortstop. He's a top 10 shortstop, bare minimum right now. Top 5 some months. I just saw a stat from Sriluka actually today that from the beginning of June to now, Aaron Judge, this is your OPS, Judge 1.3, Harper 1.2, Abrams 1.1, Ohtani 1.1. So he's having these stretches now where he's inserting himself with some of these other guys. Yeah. He needs to do it consistently. Don't get me wrong. I'm not calling him those guys.
The other part, too, is, and this is for a longer discussion for a later date, but like after the Soto thing happened, I went, what size market are we in? Because I'd like to have an expectation of what you're going to spend. Sure. Are you ever going to be a team that is willing to spend again like that to compete at that level? If you're not, just tell me that. I'd rather know it.
Yeah.
And I might just go to baseball games and enjoy it. And if you do put a good young team together, contend, that'll be fun.
Well, that's what I told you about. Yeah. They did tell you they were rebuilding, unlike or like the Wizards just started doing. So they are telling you that. We just still, it's the biggest question mark. Like I said, we're almost here 20 years with the Nats. We don't know what the learners do when it comes to building rosters. It's kind of chaotic when they have put their plans together.
Because they don't speak to the public, we don't know how they feel about the future, really.
Correct.
Except for him to just say, we're very excited.
Sure.
Excited.
I bet you are.
I'd love someone to ask him, Ted said you should sell the team to him. What's your response to that?
Right. Where was Scott when we needed him?
Where was Scott? Scott would have asked that question.
I think Scott was there. I'm pretty sure. Who wasn't there last night?
He had to be there last night.
Who wasn't posting on social media that they were there?
That's right. All right, be right back. Bram Show, ESPN 630, Sports Capital. Bronny James was the 55th overall pick in the draft. His contract today was fully guaranteed with a promise that he will be on the Lakers roster.
What? Oh, God.
What do you mean, oh, God? Is that a surprise?
No, but it's just...
Do you think his dad had anything to do with it? Because I'm sure he was fully hands off on all of that.
They don't talk. He doesn't talk to anybody.
Talk to him. He doesn't talk to his son about it. He doesn't talk to JJ about it. He doesn't talk to anybody about it.
Well, you heard what Rich Paul said, right? He was like, I could have forced him to take him at 17 if I wanted to.
Yeah.
It's like
Rich Paul and LeBron James run the Lakers.
Oh, God.
Rich Paul is going to replace Rob Pelinka and run the Lakers one day when LeBron James is probably a part owner of the team.
It's exhausting.
Which he hasn't signed his contract yet, which I've already surmised this. He wants to know what his future is.
Right.
Like, for reals. Mm-hmm. Now, they can't offer him anything like that because that's a subversion of the salary cap.
Right.
But they could wink, 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 tell him it's going to happen.
Sure. Right.
And they can't yet install Rich Paul as the whatever of the Lakers, not until LeBron James is officially a minority owner, and Paul might be too, for that matter.
Right.
That's what's happening here, guys. Now, his threat to run away, if they don't, make him happy, is probably a veiled one because where's he going to go? And his son is already there. So now they have him hostage.
Right.
But not only are you going to pick him, you're going to pick him. And not only are you going to pick him at 55, you're going to guarantee his contract. And he's going to be on the roster. So JJ has no say. Like I said a couple weeks ago, I'm like, JJ has no say in this.
Right.
If when LeBron tells him my son will play this amount of minutes when I'm on the court, he's going to do that. The Lakers have become, for a short period of time here, a stunt organization.
Mm-hmm. Right.
I would expect that from the guys downtown here, not from the guys up, not from wingers. Like, I would never do that.
Well, it's an official act.
It's an official act. He's immune. It's an official act. It's official Lakers act. He's immune.
It's right.
They did it unofficially.
What I actually don't understand is I think Bronny would benefit from at least a two-way contract to get some playing time in the G League.
Why would he get playing time in the G League when he's going to get playing time in the NBA?
God.
Does his dad realize? Is he going to tell the other team, take it easy on my kid?
Yeah, he probably is. I bet you.
Or are they
going
to listen to him?
No.
Okay, so when somebody who wants to rook Bronny really bad to show up LeBron is the question.
Remember, we already started to see it, especially that Memphis series 2 years ago.
Yeah.
Remember, well, a year ago, but 2 postseasons ago, where they started going after LeBron, and then everyone else was kind of like, all right, guys, this is a little much.
Yeah.
Because they were like genuinely disrespecting him, and the Lakers ended up winning that series.
Yeah,
but we had never had that problem before where another team was going after him like that.
Who is all right, are they going to treat Bronny like Caitlin Clark? Because that's what I want. That's what I want. I want somebody just to deck him for no reason.
You saw the latest with her, right? With
what?
Clark. She
Taurasi?
No.
Where they like hugged it out. Taurasi said
No.
really a lot of nice things about her.
No. It was something else. It might have been that same game because Taurasi's Vegas, if I'm not mistaken.
Phoenix.
No, Phoenix. That's right. This was Phoenix because Tasha Cloud was on the court. A player fouled Clark, I think, and Clark like shot a ball up.
Yeah.
And then the ball was about to hit the player in the face, and she drew her hand up real quick, but it went like around her neck and behind her, and the player almost swung on her, thinking that she was like fouling, and she went up and apologized to Clark, which I thought was like,
She was like, if you see the replay, you'll see that I tried to stop the ball from hitting you in the face.
Correct.
So
I don't know why.
I don't know why your first instinct is to turn around and swing at me.
Right. So all of a sudden now, even the players on the court are like, all right, let's calm down on this.
No, Taurasi was like overly nice.
Yes.
After the game, because she's the one that started the whole thing in the first place. When she was getting drafted, she's like, "Welcome, well, do you show?" In the NCAA tournament, she's like, "Wait till you show up here."
Right.
Like she's like, "You'll find out. We're gonna haze you." And she was right about that.
She's right.
She's been hazed so much that Taurasi was like, "I gotta hug you." We've never hazed anybody like this. We hazed you a little too much.
Smoke down.
Yeah, we hazed you a little too much.
Right.
Anyway. And the truth is, you know what? We're not talking about it as much. So when she doesn't get hazed, it is boring. That's true. So you know what? WNBA, I apologize. You hazing her kept you in the news cycle. Now that you're not hazing her, I actually don't know what she's done on the court and kind of don't care.
I mean, her stats are unreal for a rookie, but yeah, that's neither here nor there. To that point, though, like if the Lakers are playing the Wizards, do you not think that Alex Sarr, if he sees Bronny trying to like post up with him in the lane, that he's not going to throw the biggest dunk down he can in front of that dude? Like the other kids in the league are going to go after him.
That's what I'm saying. So that's what I want to know. Does LeBron actually have the gravitas to tell the NBA to take it easy on his kid?
That's real nepotism if that does go through.
Let me tell you a quick story from France. Did I tell you my pickup basketball story?
No.
This was amazing. And maybe my favorite moment of France outside of seeing Taylor Swift.
I was going to say, you did see Taylor Swift, so let's... Okay.
Archer, as I anticipated, was going to be a little bored. A city adventure for him at 11 is he needs to run around. He likes to do stuff.
Sure. Right.
And, him going to the Louvre every day has got its limits. And I understand that. I get it. I'm not going to bully him and be like, oh, sorry you had to see the Mona Lisa today.
Yeah,
you know,
right.
I didn't do could have done that.
Right. Be smart.
Oh, my bad.
Right.
Oh, my bad. You just went to the most famous place on earth.
Correct.
Sorry. No, so I didn't do that. And I realized that. And he really likes playing a lot of basketball. And we were walking down the street one day, and there was this basketball store. It was just all basketball stuff.
Sure.
And we ended up just buying a ball. I'm like, you know what? Buy a ball. Let's go play a pickup game.
Yeah.
Or just go play at a court, because we're all courts all over the place out there. By the way, this is how you know, our country, if you just go to any court and you see people playing basketball, they look like they know what they're doing. Yeah. French people don't look like they know what they're doing. The way their shooting motions are weird, all of them. Brick stuff in a way where you're like, wow. What is, and they're adults, and they clearly play all the time.
But if you go to Serbia, you will get recruited right into whatever basketball camp is right there.
That's right. That's right. Right. They're like, oh, you know what you're doing. Come here.
Yeah.
Get over here.
Yeah.
So anyway, we just played horse or something like that and played around for a little bit. It was just like a way to spend an afternoon together in France, and it was fun. And then, so we went a second time, and when we showed up, the court was taken, right? And so I'm like, well, do you want to go try to find another one? And he goes, no, let's just hang out and watch them for a little bit. They wanted to play a pickup game and didn't have enough people. So eventually, because they were looking for other people, we just started shooting, and Archer's making all these shots. He's actually pretty good. And they were like, do you guys want to play? And I kind of looked, these are adults. So I kind of looked at them and I'm like, okay. But I'm looking at these other guys like, hey, man.
Yeah.
Okay. So, and I don't speak the language. So
of course,
they're all,
I was gonna say, there's a
but
language
I'm
barrier.
giving them the look of that's a kid. Don't hurt him, And one of the guys was super high. So I was a little, obviously super high. And I'm like, all right, guys. So we started playing 3-on-3 basketball. Okay, first time I've ever played a pickup game with him. And the guy who was guarding him was nice. He just backed off. Archer hit 3 threes in his face. Okay. Dude. And then, because that happened, people who were nearby walked over to the court and started watching this, because this little kid is draining threes. And he had scored so many points that the other team started to get very frustrated with the person covering him. And they were mad and almost quit. They were doing this in French. I don't know what they were saying, but it was obvious they almost quit, because they're like, we're not going to get embarrassed by an 11-year-old who hits a three. Now there's a crowd, and when he hits a three, he shakes in front of him and does a dance. Michelle Jordan. And it was funny because I'm like, Archer's not scared. So I was like, I knew, if you just leave him wide open, he might hit shots on you.
Yeah.
So it was funny. So then the guy started to take it seriously. And at that point, now I'm watching closely.
Right.
And he blocked his shot a couple of times. He wouldn't let him get by him. There was no open looks for him anymore, because they were the other team was shut him down. But the guy was nice and didn't do anything, to hurt him.
Yeah, right.
Anything so that was good. But I feel like Bronny, there's going to be a memo from LeBron. Don't take it, take it easy on my son. And somebody is going to take advantage of this, and let's see how LeBron reacts to it.
Right. No, I mean, he's going to try, and maybe the people that are of his age, which aren't a lot of them anymore, by the way. LeBron's the oldest dude in the league, I think, probably by this point, if not one of them. He's going to try that, but just about everyone is going to take advantage, not because his name is Bronny, because he's going to be the worst player on the court. It's not because of his name. It's because he shouldn't be in the league.
Correct. I mean, you know what? In fairness to him, let me see him play on the NBA level before we make that assessment. But this is what I didn't like about this, and which I think why directing something like this is ridiculous. And then to actually go about forcing the team to do a guaranteed contract, and he has to be on the roster. When are the Lakers going to wake up from this nightmare that they're in?
Right. Yeah.
What are you doing?
Don't know.
He's the 55th pick for a reason.
Yes.
Rich Paul. I could have made him 72nd. I believe you.
Yeah, right. Well,
I believe you.
Yeah.
It's crazy. I did find it funny. Celtics are up for sale.
Yep.
They were bought for $320 million. They're worth a lot more than that now.
Yep.
Yesterday, they gave Jason Tatum the biggest deal in NBA history. They now have, with 2 players, contracts that are worth double what the team was paid for when they bought it.
Correct.
Those 2 contracts between Brown and Tatum are worth an aggregate over $600 million. Those 2 contracts are more money than what Wyc Grousbeck paid for the Boston Celtics.
Correct. I will say this.
Sports is a hell of an investment.
Ravel said yesterday you don't make that deal unless you know who the buyer's going to be, and I couldn't wholeheartedly disagree for basketball.
I 100% disagree with that.
Because basketball, the deal's the deal.
The deal's the deal. It fits under the cap or it doesn't.
Well, and it's also when you get your own players, that supermax is the supermax. Like, this is why we hated it with Brad. They couldn't sign him to just a $30 million deal. It had to be $60 million because that's the deal.
I think the line's going to be out the door to try to buy this team. It's the Boston Celtics.
Correct.
Like, it's the Lakers, the Knicks, and the Celtics are the three teams that have a brand value like that are rare. Like, the Commanders were a 90-year-old franchise, but wait till you see what happens when Jerry sells the Cowboys one day.
Right. Exactly.
Like, what is that worth? I don't know. Remember he said like $12 billion. I'm like, he might be right.
Might be right, yeah.
It's a Picasso. You don't know what it's worth.
The Cowboys and the Yankees are the two franchises that we just don't know.
If the Steinbrenners ever sold that team, they're priceless.
Yes.
I don't know what they're worth. I think we're going to find out with the Celtics. There's a part of me that thinks they will get more than what the Commanders got. The highest priced franchise was $4 billion. That was the Suns. The Suns are nothing to the Boston Celtics in terms of brand value. Sure. Nothing.
Right.
All right, take a quick break. Brave Washington Show, ESPN 630, Sports Capital. The Capital schedule came out. They're going to start October 12th, which is a Saturday at home against the Devils. Josh Harris, baby. Josh Harris special. Josh Harris special. That's the opener.
Yeah. Did you read why that was the case, though?
No.
I believe that was the Colorado franchise that expanded the same year that the Capitals did. I think that was I don't want to say they were the Colorado Rockies, but they might have been.
Yes, the Rockies.
Yeah, so I think that was the team that year. So they're actually playing against the franchise they came into the league with. To kick off the 50th anniversary.
Okay. Need a little explanation, but okay.
Yeah.
Fine.
Exactly.
Let's see. They open with 3 straight home games. Jersey, Vegas, Dallas.
Kansas City Scouts. That's who
Kansas
they were.
City Scouts.
That's who they were. Sorry.
Okay. Who became Colorado, who then went to New Jersey.
Is that right?
That's what you're saying? Well, that must be what it is.
Yes, correct.
Okay.
Kansas City for 2 years, then the Rockies, then the Devils. There you go.
Scouts. That's a good name. I like the Scouts.
Yeah, that's a good name.
Let's see. Jersey, Vegas, Dallas, all at home. That's how they start the season.
Tough start.
Then they'll have at Jersey, at Philly, back-to-back with, I hate these, play at Philly, then play Philly at home.
Yes.
Let's see. The first time they ever play Utah, Han, is Monday, November 18th. First Penguins game, Friday, November 8th. That's a rarity. They didn't do it early with them. They normally slip them on TNT or something like that.
You know what? They only play them a couple times now because of the new schedule, so don't waste it early on, actually. So I'm okay with that one.
First game against the Stanley Cup champs will be Monday, November 25th in Florida. Let's see.
You're glossing over this. Go look at that next game after the 25th.
At Tampa.
Uh-huh.
Right.
What day of the week is that?
Wednesday.
What's the next day?
Thanksgiving.
Uh-huh.
Oh.
For the first time in I don't remember how long, they're not playing the night before Thanksgiving here at home. That was
so it's a road game.
That was a really big deal. That they would do that in the Black Friday game. The Black Friday game is still happening.
I used to love the New Year's Day game too. They don't do that anymore either.
Well, because that's a Winter Classic thing. You gotta either be a day game or out of the way of it. So,
got it.
Yeah.
Anything else stand out? Other than that, I will tell you the thing that really stands out to me is at the end of the year, 8 of the final 12 are on the road.
Yes.
So they better not be in the situation that they were in a year ago. Because let's see, it's at Winnipeg, at Minnesota, Buffalo, at Boston, at Carolina, Chicago, at Islanders, Hurricanes, at Columbus, home Columbus, at Islanders, at Pittsburgh. So actually that sucks too. The Pittsburgh game's the last game, but it does feel like it might eliminate somebody the way it's been the last couple of years.
Yeah, I would say the last 2 years, the Caps and Penguins have literally been eliminated on like the last week of the season. So I actually like that one that it's the last year. Also, if both teams are eliminated for some reason, people will still want to watch that game because of Ovechkin versus Crosby.
I also did the double check here.
Yeah.
No crossovers with the Commanders, so I get no. Yeah. Once again, the Capitals did not land on a road Saturday somewhere I was going to be. Some of that was going to be hard, though, this year because, we have a game in Cincinnati. We have a game in New Orleans. So there are a couple places where there isn't even a hockey game to be had. But unfortunately, no double for me with the Capitals.
I checked that as well. I have my annual bitch fest about 3 games this year. November 3rd, a Sunday. The Commanders play at the Giants.
Yeah.
The Capitals are playing at 5 o'clock that day. They don't overlap.
All right, at least it's 5 o'clock. Okay.
But you're flirting there, guys.
Yeah, you're flirting there.
No one's watching Caps Hurricanes on an NFL Sunday, and I love the Caps.
100%.
I get paid
5
to
o'clock.
run those games.
That's right after the first witching hour of the
Ain't
red zone,
nobody
guys.
watching that game.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right.
That's bitching number 1. Here's number 2 and 3 on the year. December 22nd, the Eagles are here in town. That's probably a 1 o'clock game, but could be moved.
We'll see, yeah.
5 o'clock against the Kings, guys?
Yeah. Stop.
Come on.
How about just stop playing on Sundays during football season?
Or on Sundays, why not just go with noon?
Well,
Just
maybe.
get it out of the way early.
Yeah, maybe.
Everyone will hang out at the sportsbook
11
Ted.
a.m.
I would love that.
11
I
a.m.
would geek if that was the case.
Your games end right as kickoff is happening.
But I'm just saying, come on. 5 o'clock, and I get it. It's because the Kings are here, so the Kings are probably going back to the West Coast. Probably the last game for them. Then the following weekend, home here against the Falcons. They're at Detroit, 5 o'clock. Nobody's watching Caps Red Wings with the second to last game of the season going on.
True. That's true. Neither are the Red Wings fans. They're all watching the Lions because they're supposed to be Super Bowl or
Dan
bust.
Campbell's losing his mind.
That's right.
Guys,
I know.
Get out of the NFL's way. What are we doing here?
What was the one November 3rd we were worried about?
It's Giants. It's 1 o'clock.
Oh, wait,
They'll be
what was
fine.
the Ravens one? There was a Ravens one where I was like, do not play on that. So they don't. Good.
They
Because that's in
don't.
October.
No, because it's the 12th. I
There
was worried
is
about
no,
it too,
okay,
but
so there's no, from October 12th until Sunday, November 3rd, they do not play on a Sunday. So that's good.
Correct.
There's
And-
no
and
Sunday game.
there's actually, and I actually liked this version, by the way. I've got to pull it up here because my calendar is now out of sorts. It looks like November. Hold on here. Hold it here. November 17th, actually. They're at Vegas. It's 8 o'clock puck drop on Sunday. Guess what? The Commanders play at 4 o'clock. Or guess what? The Commanders play on Thursday because they're playing
great.
the Eagles.
Perfect.
Love that.
Perfect.
Love that for you guys.
Great.
Love that
Very
for you
good.
guys. But come on, guys. Get out of the way.
I need to, because we got to take a break. I need to revisit what they're doing because I was having some second thoughts about all this
boy.
last.
Oh boy, here we go. Buyer's remorse over here.
No, not buyer's remorse. I just have some questions I need answered.
Oh, okay.
I have a few questions, and as you know, I am a mild but consistent critic of what this general manager has been doing the last 3-4 years.
Okay.
So I have some questions.
All right.
Would you mind answering them?
Yeah, let's do it.
Okay, we'll do that next.
Yeah.
Brave Watch the Show, ESPN 630 at Sports Capital. I'd like to just ask a few questions if I can.
Sure. Yeah.
Upon reflection of all the moves that the Capitals made over the last couple of days,
Yep.
some of which I think were very necessary, a couple of which felt like a reach, and a couple of which felt like a strong price to pay to get out of something that was of their own making.
Yeah, I mean that's the biggest one, but yes. Go,
Okay.
What are your questions on the other side?
What's the long-term plan here?
Well, you have Pierre-Luc Dubois. If he does work out, he's in his mid-20s. Everyone else they signed are in their mid-20s, except for Roy, who's 29, which is fine. I'm okay with that. You got to have one
6-year deal,
Got to have one old dude on the team. I mean, same thing. I expect it to be good for 3 or 4 years, and then they're probably going to move on after with those last 2 years on the deal.
Hopefully.
Yeah.
Okay.
What are your is this you're just asking in general? Like, what is there a move that shook you more than the others, or what?
Well, I hope the Pierre-Luc Dubois thing works out, but,
Right.
there's a red flag that's screaming at
course.
everybody that he has 7 years left on a deal that they just gave him.
Yeah.
And they took Darcy Kemper, who I
Right.
think they watched hockey last year to realize that that is also an issue, and they've got 3 years of that contract to deal with. We paid a hefty price to do it.
Correct.
This guy, Roy,
Yeah.
29,
Yeah.
6-year contract.
Mm-hmm.
I guess my point is this. Let me just read the roster to you real quick.
Yes.
Okay. Backstrom is still on it for now.
Okay. You could probably
Right.
just for
Let's erase that.
let's erase Backstrom and Oshie for these purposes.
Okay.
Because I think that's what's going to happen.
Pierre-Luc Dubois, Connor McMichael just re-signed.
Yes.
Alexi Protas. Scarbosa, who's 31 and okay.
I don't think he's going to be on the club to make the team out of camp.
Dylan Strome, like
Yes.
him.
Yep.
Yeah.
First line.
Okay. Left wing, Sonny Milano, Alex Ovechkin, Max Pacioretty's not here anymore.
He's
and
gone.
who's this guy? Mangia Yeah.
Mangiapane.
Yeah, that guy. Manja, that guy.
Mangiapane.
Okay. Nick Dowd, 34 now.
Yep.
Let's see.
he's
You said
fourth line.
let's not do Oshie.
Yep. Get rid of
Taylor
Oshie.
Radish, they
Yep.
just picked up. Tom
Yep.
Wilson's back. Who's this other guy? Brandon.
You're talking about Brandon Duhaime.
Yeah.
Yep.
Just got him.
Yep. He's a
okay.
fourth liner too.
Defense is Alexiev, Ethan Bear for now, I guess. He had some personal issues last
I
year.
actually look at him as the seventh defenseman at the moment. He and Alexiev are the seventh defenseman.
Carlson.
Yep.
They just picked up Chychrun. Great. From Boca Raton. Really? Okay. Martin Fehervary.
Yep.
Matt Roy, they just signed.
Yep.
Rasmus Sandin. Trevor Van Riemsdyk is still here
Yes.
at 32.
Yep.
The goaltenders are Lindgren,
And
Stevenson, Thompson.
Yeah.
Okay. That's a lot of guys that are not homegrown. Okay.
Correct.
A
Yeah,
lot. Many of which have longish term contracts now attached to them.
Some of them, but not a lot of them.
Let's see. What's Sandin got?
Sandy's got a couple, but it's a very manageable. He's not homegrown, but he's young enough that they traded a first round pick for him. I don't look at him as like a free agent signing.
Roy's got 6 years attached to him
Sure.
now.
Yep.
The guy they got from Ottawa. What was attached to that? Do we know?
That was, you're talking about Chychrun?
Yeah.
Chychrun, they traded Jensen, who
Right.
I would say they upgraded, and they attached a third round pick to him. So they upgraded.
But do you know how much term is on his deal by any chance?
Chychrun?
Yeah.
Hold on one sec.
I think this guy Radish was a 1 year deal, if I had that right. Duhaime, I think, was a 1 year deal too. I think.
Chychrun he signed a 6-year deal in 2018, so he's on his last year.
Oh, he's on the
of his
last
deal.
year of his deal.
Yes.
Okay.
Correct. Yep.
The guy they got from the Flames was a 1 year deal left. Is that right?
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
Dubois got a lot of time left.
Correct.
Okay. Strome, they just re-signed,
Worth
right?
noting, Jensen had 2 years left on his deal.
Okay. And Strome, they just re-signed.
Yeah, they've shot. He's the longest. He's going to be the longest tenure not named Wilson, I believe.
Here's the question I have.
Yeah.
You're going to need to help me with this.
Yes.
Didn't our AHL team just win the championship for the second straight year?
Correct. Yes.
Don't we have a lot of players on that team that maybe should be filtering up to this roster?
You'll have.
Does it like?
That's viable.
Aren't we good?
That's viable. You'll have LaPierre,
Okay.
who was back and forth, and they let him play in the AHL
Miro.
championship. You have Miro, right? Who they're going to
Okay.
let probably take a chance, but he kind of probably needs some more seasoning, most likely. He'll be up and down, though. Well, as soon as somebody gets out of the lineup, he'll be a call-up. I think he'll probably be the first call-up.
Okay.
The one guy I think you need to pay attention to that it's going to be a long-term one, and the Caps signed him this way, is a guy by the name of Ethan Frank. He's really, really fast. But they signed him to a 2-way deal this year and a 1-way deal next year. So he signed a 2-year extension, and then they expect him to be in the lineup next season.
Okay.
So there's that. You also remember there are strictly AHL players on that team too that are not the Caps property. So there's probably 3 to 5 to 6 players that you actually will never see because the Caps don't have the right to actually call them up. They are strictly Bears players. So yes, you're right. They have some of these young players, but it's not the whole team when it comes down to it.
I'm just asking these questions now because this has been my chief complaint about what's been going on here for a few years, which is they either a few years ago recommit at a length with some older players that were misguided, in my opinion.
Right.
Or now they're giving term to players that aren't theirs. One they're taking a chance with. Hopefully it'll work out. The other is going on 30. It'll have 5 years left on a deal when they do it on the other side with him. Are they history repeating here a little bit? Where my complaint with them a few years ago was, guys, it is time to turn the page a little bit while we chase the record and start incorporating some of these young guys. And I don't think they did it fast enough. And I think that they're in some of the situations that they're in because of the contracts that they gave out.
Sure.
And then own goal mistakes like giving Kemper a deal that was way too much, right? Which they've gotten out of, but they've paid a price to do that now.
Correct, yes.
So I'm looking at what they did, and I think a lot of this was necessary. But I also look at it and I go, once again, I don't see a lot of road for these players that I keep being told are really good that are below them. Where is the room for these guys to come up here and take homegrown players and put them up on the big team? Because you keep seeming to fill in the blanks with other people's players, and in some cases with long term, which is why I'm asking the question, what is the strategy here? Because that's what's kind of occurred to me the last 24 hours.
No.
What's the strategy here?
Those players are already in the lineup where they can be inserted. The projected lineup is going to be Ovechkin, Strome, Wilson. You ain't touching that for top line. Right. They'll blend it
Okay.
up eventually, but
Sure.
just for these purposes.
Right.
Second line projects to be this. Pierre-Luc Dubois at center, Andrew Mangiapane, who only has the 1 year left on his deal, and Connor McMichael's going to kick over to the wing probably to start the season. He'll be a center eventually at some point when they flip everything around.
Okay.
So you've got 2 homegrown guys at the top line, Connor McMichael on the second line. Third line projects to be Sonny Milano, who had a really good end to the season, I thought.
Okay.
Hendrix Lapierre centering that line. He's
I like
homegrown.
him, yeah.
And then Taylor Radish, who is a bottom 6 guy who they signed to fill out the roster.
Okay.
Last line ends up being Brandon Duheim, who they traded, which same thing, 1 year left. So you actually are not committed to those guys to being in the lineup either. So if someone beats them out,
Right.
they're fine with that.
Okay.
Nick Dowd,
Yeah.
who is the fourth line center, shouldn't be moved. He's fine. And then Alexi Protas, who they drafted. So they've got 1 to 2 guys that are homegrown on all the forwards. Then the defensive pairings, you're going to have Carlson and Chikrin together. Carlson's the big minutes guy. Then you're going to have some combination of these 4. The way they projected is Sandin and Roy. I think it's going to be Faravari and Roy, to be completely honest. And Faravari they drafted. Sandin, like I said, he wasn't drafted, but they brought him in really young from Toronto. And then Trevor Van Riemsdyk, who's just a solid veteran who will play on the third pair. I think they're a little more homegrown than you think. And I don't think, here's the problem.
I'm just seeing a lot of money, again, put into other places.
Sure.
See, that's the other, I hope this guy works out, but they've got a lot of money invested in him.
Right.
And then they just invested a lot of money in a player who's never played or who's going to be 30 next year.
Right.
Well, that's where a lot of their money is.
That
period.
guy, Roy, though, you've got to look at what he brings to the table. He was playing 22 minutes a night in LA, going up against the other team's top pairing. So I think actually the Roy signing is our first sign of we realized John Carlson actually needs to take a slight step back. But we have
Really? What could have showed you that 3 years ago when the guy could barely skate on bad knees? Actually, last year to me was a surprise how much he was able to play effectively.
correct, but he was playing 25 minutes a night, and by the end you could tell he was gassed.
No kidding.
So here's what
I'm surprised he was able to do that.
Correct. And so I think what's happened here is they're looking at it and they're going, we need to get another defensive defenseman, and those guys cost money. They're probably the commodities that you got to throw a bad contract at. And as I said to you, 3 to 4 years is what they're hoping they get out of him.
Thank you for saying it's a bad contract. I can tell on its face that there's no way we get to the end of it and it's good.
Well,
no
yeah,
way.
But they'll move on from it. They haven't hesitated to move on from any of their bad contracts. And so this is what he costs, though, right now. This is just the cost of doing business.
I'll give you a couple examples, though.
Okay,
I mean,
like
they could have put Oshie up on the
they could have, but they
expansion
didn't.
thing.
He was still effective at the time. At the time, no. At the time of the expansion draft, he was still good. He was still a
He
night
was still
in.
missing a ton of games, and it
Not
was
thi-
pretty
not like
obvious.
this.
And I love. Don't get me wrong, I love the guy. He's one of my favorites all
Sure.
time to put on the jersey. I love the dude, but this goes back to there were a couple of guys that they needed to figure out a way to kind of move on from.
Sure.
They're Klay Thompsons. They need to move on
Right.
from.
Right,
I'm
but-
still going to retire your jersey, dude. I love you forever.
Oshie wasn't that, though, at that time. He wasn't.
I got to look him up. Go on.
Okay, that's fine. But I'm just telling you, he wasn't that, and they weren't going to move on from him. The last 2 years have been when Oshie really took a downhill turn. It
Okay.
wasn't at that time, though. You have to remember that they were not going to move on from him in that time. They just weren't.
2021, he played 53 games. 2021-22, he played 44.
Yeah.
What are you talking about?
The-
That's half the
The
season.
2022 was the first time, though, that the Kraken were playing. Or
2020
21 was the first year of the Kraken, I think, actually.
They've played 4 years.
I think so. I think that's what we're on right now.
Okay.
So I'm just saying, at the time, he was not. They were just going to give him up for free, is what I'm telling you, though.
They would have gotten out of the contract.
Okay, and then they would have handed it off to who?
I don't know.
That's what I'm getting at.
Okay.
So I just think you don't get rid of guys.
2021 was the expansion draft.
Okay, so it was 2021 was the first year.
Right. So he had played 53 games that year.
All right. It wasn't known that he was going to be this chronic injuries, though.
I mean, when he signed the deal, everyone said there was no chance that he was going to make it to the end of it. By whatever. Okay, it's just I love that guy. That guy, he's just a flesh wound. He's nuts. He will play through literally everything, even at his. I mean, his wife's probably like, "Yeah, tell him."
Yeah.
I've been trying to.
Correct.
I appreciate what he's done for this team, and he puts his body on the line.
Right.
I totally get that. But these are some of the. This is where I just don't see eye to eye with directionally what they've done for a while. Like, and I think the results have actually panned out that way. Like, they've either barely made the playoffs or not made it the last couple of years. And they haven't gone anywhere. And when they have gotten into the playoffs, they didn't look like a team that was about to make a lot of waves. And last year took a miraculous run and a nosedive by the Flyers for them to even get in at all.
Sure. No, I mean, all the teams sucked down the stretch.
That's right.
That was the joke.
It all like we were
year.
doing Throwback Thursday a month in advance saying this will be the first time in 20 years they haven't made the playoffs 2 years in a row. We turned out to be wrong, but barely.
Correct.
Barely. And then they got in and were out fast.
Right. No. And well, that's why I think all these moves happen is because they got swept. They looked completely outplayed by the number one.
But
seed.
like, okay, but this goes back to like you love to talk about. I agree with you. Like, tell me what the plan is.
Right.
I don't see it here. Like, it feels like a grasping for straws is occurring.
Yeah, but they handed out one long contract out of all of these.
Two.
What was the other one? What are you talking about? What's the other one? Oh, Dubois. Is that what you're counting?
They inherited a 7-year contract.
So they've handed out two large contracts, but there's really not much else on the other side of Ovechkin. You got to remember, too, when Ovechkin's done, that's another $8 million that's going to open up on the cap space. So whatever they need to do to finagle around once Ovechkin's done, they get to fill that space.
This goes back to, like, I love Backstrom. They shouldn't have given him that contract. Like,
No, that's wrong, too, though. At the time, he should have gotten that contract. He was great. He was coming off a career year, actually, and then he got the hip injury. The timing was bad with it. He actually deserved that one. Centers that actually put up numbers like deserve that. That was bad luck. That was bad luck, that one.
In the interim, what they've done the last couple of years, like, they missed on Kemper.
Sure, I agree with you on that.
They missed. Obviously.
They overpaid. They overpaid because they didn't have a goaltender, so they had to.
They missed on that one, and to get out of it, they did something that's risky.
Sure, I agree.
Like really risky. And then I don't know this defenseman from LA, but at his age, that price point and length of time, all of a sudden, you know, like their resources are going towards players that they don't know, while all at the same time. All I keep hearing about is how good these young guys are because they keep winning.
There's no defenseman like that they've got, though.
Okay.
That's the problem.
That's fine. All right, I'll hear that out.
You got to pay somewhere.
But I mean, there were a couple years ago where I'm like, can you just let McMichael play a little bit? Can you just let LaPierre play a little bit? Because I don't know. I would like to see us develop these guys, and you keep like getting in the way of them having opportunity. And that's why I'm asking the question, what is the strategy here? Because I'm not sure I see it. It feels like you're grasping at straws to try to figure something out every year now. And when you make a mistake, you're trying to clean it up. But the way you went about cleaning it up was an interesting way of going about it.
Well, you also have to remember they got out of the end of the Kuznetsov contract. Right?
They did get out of that.
So they got out of the end.
That was another one I said at the time. I wouldn't give that guy that length of a contract because I don't trust him.
He's Patrick Corbin, though. Year 2 of it, he was the best player in their playoff run.
That's right.
So, like, same thing.
I don't know. I am just not in. You seem to be in agreement of what they're doing. I don't think you're seeing what I'm seeing here, which is I think the results speak for themselves the last few years.
No, I think the linchpin of it all is the Pierre-Luc Dubois. That's why I'm saying over the weekend, I loved all the things they did over the weekend. The Pierre-Luc Dubois is still the one hanging over the entire offseason. It is the biggest contract.
If he is a problem, which it seems that some teams think that he is, if he is, this is going to blow up bad on them.
Correct.
In fact, it's going to blow up in their face bad, and they're going to be stuck with this.
Correct.
If he does, turn out to be a really, really good player who just was misjudged by these other teams, well, then we lucked out upon all lucked out.
Correct.
Somewhere in the middle's the truth of that, though. Like, there's no way you can sell me right now that they just got the steal of all steals.
Right.
There's a reason why that team traded that contract off.
Yeah, I'm not trying to tell you that one's a steal. That's the one that worries me the most.
Yes.
I think all these other moves, though, I think you're kind of like overshooting it here. They didn't make any major moves except for signing on to Roy. And I just wanted to pull this up to test it out real quick and to see what they did. When they signed Brooks Orpik, it was the first day McClellan was the GM. He was 34 and they handed him 5 years. Mm-hmm. He was integral that last year when they won the Cup.
Yeah.
Same thing with Niskanen. I think Niskanen was a year or two younger than that, 31, 32. I will say this. Defensemen are different when it comes to the age. I don't think you look at them as being like the second they get over 30, all of a sudden they're old. Those guys are stay-at-home guys. You just need a steady hand. I wouldn't read too much negatively into keeping him around too much.
Listen, I'm not against all this. I think they clearly, considering what the results were, needed to make major changes. And I still don't think they have a solution in net, but I think that they, got somebody. That one's my favorite one, actually. The guy's cheap.
And he's a professional goaltender.
He's a professional goaltender. He's cheap. Do they have a number one? I don't think so.
Right. I'd agree.
Like, I don't think so.
Yeah.
Which is a problem.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and then the 2 length term deals that they did were with people who aren't on their team and one that a team couldn't get away from fast enough.
Right.
So what's the strategy here? I'll believe it when I see it, but I think my criticisms of them seem to have bared out to what the results have been, where I think that they were a little too loyal. They divvied out a little too much money to some of these older players that they really, really like and love. And I understand that, but this is a cold-hearted business where you got to come around to some decisions.
Right.
I didn't think they did it soon enough. I think they blocked the pathway to some of the younger players when it was screaming it's time to start this transition. They finally brought in the coach to allow it to happen and gave more opportunities last year, which I liked. And I loved how he navigated it. And we talked about it all year where I'm like, I see this guy's threading a needle. Now, all of a sudden, he injects them, the GM injects this team with a lot of veteran presence from all different parts.
Yeah. But here's what always happens every single year.
I mean, no, but you know what I mean? You see what I'm saying?
No, but same thing. You're overshooting it a little bit. People get hurt. Guys get out of the lineup. They're going to bring up Miro the second he gets hurt. They're going to bring up someone else when he gets hurt. This opens it up. Honestly, really what I looked at this year is they have a bunch of one-year contracts. Ryan Leonard's getting put right into the lineup next season. So I actually look at this as they're not committing a lot of the forward space
that they're getting through the year.
Yes, correct.
But they did lock themselves into a couple of things here that are not getting out of.
Correct.
So we'll see.
But there's not a lot around the lineup that you want to get rid of, like Wilson, Strom, Ovechkin. You're locked into that. You're perfectly fine with that.
At this juncture, I think this LaPierre guy might be good. Yeah. I kind of know that Miro guy is going to be good. Right. I don't know how good, but I kind of know.
You just see it. You might need some seasoning.
Definitely.
Yes.
But he's got he's dangerous.
Yes. Yes.
Like
correct.
serious
He's
up
just gotta
dangerous.
Be more consistent with it.
I'm very hopeful about Ryan Leonard. After what you told me about their first round pick, I'm going to hold my breath on that one from this year because it sounds like they took a leap of faith on him. Fine. I don't know what I don't know about that stuff.
McClellan also, by the way, he said he reminds him of Oshie. So he's trying to do this whole like rebuild the team through the old souls type thing.
Fine.
So
fine.
We'll
and I'm never going to put too much pressure on a first round pick in a hockey draft.
6 years away.
Correct. So I'm okay with that. I'm just kind of watching this from afar going, I don't know. It doesn't add up. Like every time it feels like, especially this year, it felt like they went, we need to shake this thing up big time. And they did.
Right.
And there was a case for it. And then there's this other part of me that goes, I think you're grasping a little bit here. That's what I feel like is happening.
Well, last year they didn't do anything.
In the offseason, they didn't do anything.
They did literally. I think they signed maybe 1 or 2 players because they were stuck on the cap.
They were stuck on the cap, and I also felt like, you know what? It was they got the right coach in here to give an opportunity to some players that needed to get it, so we could see it. Let's see it. Give them the chance. They've performed well at the lower level. We need new blood, young blood. Bring them up, and I'm all for homegrown people if you have them. A year later, they're flipping some of this upside down with a lot of players from the outside, and maybe that's normal course of practice. It was just, I think the term on 2 of those players that got me, where I went, I'm not sure that I see it. Because I'm like, I saw the transition in real time and was into it. And then all of a sudden this offseason came, and they flipped it upside down again on me, and I went, I feel like you're grasping. That's where I kind of landed on it. Yeah, that's all.
You got to remember, too, you wouldn't have a problem with this if you saw it all on a list or if it happened all throughout the year. Remember they traded for Jensen and handed him an extension before he played a game for them? Okay. He's done this. McClellan has done this. And Jensen was fine until literally this past year. So same thing. They actually have just done this. They've done it a different way, though, where they flip a salary to another team, bring in someone else, and then all of a sudden hand an extension off to some of those guys.
All I know is the last few years, the results are the results. Since they won the Stanley Cup, have they won a playoff series? No. All right, so the results are the results.
Sure.
And in some cases, they either didn't make the playoffs or barely made the playoffs. So I think the results speak for themselves, and I feel like I'm right in at least pointing it out. I'm not killing them over this stuff. I'm not going crazy on them, but I'm putting a critical eye on this. And I'm not sure the answers were given to me the more I thought about it. I'm not sure I got the answers that I thought turn this thing back around again.
I think the factor that you need to remember here, though, is Spencer Carberry was handed the roster last year with none of his fingerprints on the roster. And it was, here, fix Anthony Mantha. That's your project this year. He did. Here, fix Evgeny Kuznetsov. Couldn't. They traded him right away.
Right.
Now they're trying to fill out the roster, and I'm sure they're asking him, who do you want to fill out your system? And these are the guys that they targeted, and they got pretty much all of them, it sounds like.
I hope you're right that he was an active part in that, because there's this part of me that feels like the front office is feeling pressure to do better. And so, therefore, they're going to go do some things that might be risky.
No, I think
and just say, Carberry, deal with it.
You have to remember, they don't fire their coaches often, and he has a long deal left. And
I buy into him.
Right.
I loved just about everything he was doing last year, and I knew that he was in a difficult position.
So that's what I would argue with some of these players, too. I know you're not hung up on the one-year guys. You're mostly hung up on Roy and Pierre.
Same with Pacioretty, he's a veteran. He was coming off injuries. He's done it for a long time. They gave him a shot. It didn't work out. Right. He's gone now. No harm, no foul.
Right.
I love those. Those deals I love. The Commanders just did a bunch of these where I go, don't get too crazy about all this. All these guys are on 1-2 year deals. If it doesn't work out, they'll move on.
But this is the best part about Carberry. He didn't hesitate to do it early on in the year last year when things were real rough. Remember, it was first 2 weeks. I was coming in telling you, I don't know how this is going to go this year.
It was really bad.
But the roster ended up getting used to his system, buying into his system. But what did Carberry do throughout the year with a lot of those guys? He didn't hesitate to scratch a lot of them. And he didn't hesitate to scratch a guy and put one of those Hershey guys into the lineup. So this is the thing, too. If it doesn't work out, they bring up somebody and they put the guy in that they want to be there.
Listen, you're like with the Capitals. I get it. You're close to it. I'm like with the Commanders. I got rose-colored glasses on with them. I want it to be. I want it to be good. I love the Capitals, and I feel like they deserve a critical eye. And I haven't liked what they've done move-wise for a while in a lot of different ways. Not that they're all bad or this stuff. It's just they don't always add up to me, and some of them I've kind of called out in advance and went, I don't know about that one. Let's see how that plays out.
Sure, but the one that we're both concerned about is the same one. The PLD one.
I was concerned about Kemper a few years ago. I'm like, that's too much money for a guy who's got average stats.
That one, unfortunately, that was a little bit of the Juan Soto trade. The Nats farm system was so effing bad that they had to overcompensate and trade him, right? With Kemper, it was, we have no goaltenders. We have to overcompensate for the guy that just won the cup. And we knew it the day of. He was never going to be that good. We didn't think he'd be that bad last year.
It flipped on him, right?
Yeah.
No, this acquisition to get out of the Kemper deal is a huge swing.
Correct. I think
I hope it's not a strikeout. Obviously, I want the best for them, and I hope this guy turns out to be great. He's obviously very talented. He wouldn't have gotten a contract like that if he wasn't very talented. But they ran away from it.
Yeah.
And that frightens me.
Right.
Why are they doing that? Why would you give somebody an 8-year deal and a year later can't wait to get away from it?
Well, the one factor that you do need to remember is that his no movement clause was literally kicking in the next day. So they were thinking, we either trade him or we are stuck with him for the next 7 years, 8 years, 7 years, whatever it is. So they were even thinking,
guess who's stuck with him now?
Well, that's us, yeah.
Right.
So it's a no movement clause. So I think he has to pick his team.
I hope he loves it. I love it. I love it in Washington.
I told you this, though, Kid's 25. He was in Columbus. Right. How do you like living in Columbus at age 20?
I don't want to do
by
that.
yourself.
No.
Okay. Then you get traded to Winnipeg. You like living in Winnipeg when you're 23.
But then he went to Los Angeles.
And then
that must have been nice.
And then probably lost his mind a little bit. Because if I know 24 or 25-year-olds, that guy was probably up till 5 a.m. some nights.
I'm just asking questions.
Sure.
And I know what I've seen the last few years, which is a team that's not vying for a Stanley Cup.
Sure. But this team, they're going to at least try to win a round. I see a roster that can win a round this year.
I hope you're right about that.
I will say this too. Not unlike with the Nationals. This team won a title in the last 6 years. They get the benefit of the doubt until I see it screw up right in front of my eyes.
And I'm calling out the screw-ups as I see them in real time.
That's fine.
And I think it's okay. And I still appreciate that they won the Stanley Cup.
I'll say this, though.
It doesn't mean I don't appreciate it. It's I like winning, and I want to keep winning. And I'm vested in my teams building themselves in a way to be successful. I should be calling out when I go, I don't know about these moves, guys.
I'll say this, though, about Roy. You don't play 22 minutes a night in the NHL as a defenseman, and you're garbage. You're a stay-at-home defenseman. Those stats, you don't make that up.
Okay.
And he plays stay-at-home style. They're not asking him to chip in on offense.
I'm rooting for them. We're on the same team here.
I know, but I'm just telling you what I see.
Listen, I'm taking a critical lot. You want to come after me on the Commanders moves? Go ahead. I'll talk about them.
We were in agreement on a lot of the Commanders
Happy to
moves.
talk about them.
I'm just saying. I think I know a little more puck with some of these names than you do.
100%. That's why
all.
I'm asking you the questions.
I know, and that's
I'm not deferring to your expertise here, but I will point out that I'll believe it when I see it with some of this because they've been trying to sell me on a few different things the last few years, and I've been like, I don't think so. I'm not buying it, and I've been right.
But
so
I will
until
say this,
they prove out, because like the results are the results.
Sure, but I want to point this out though too. Last year, remember they all of a sudden had too many defensemen, and they went and signed Bear, and I was kind of like, this is a little overkill. And then by the end of the year, they were calling up Hardy Achman Akhtel, who hadn't played all season and was inserted into the playoffs. I'm just saying this roster takes a turn fast in this league. I think they're just lining themselves up to still be okay after an injury or two.
Fine.